Today, I'm going to be giving my Premier League predictions from 20th to 1st, as well as give some shouts for who I think will be the top scorer, most clean sheets, stuff like that. So, yes, guys, welcome back to the channel. Today, we're going to be doing my full Premier League predictions for the 2025-26 season. I'm pretty confident on it. These are famous last words, of course, because I'm putting it on YouTube, but we'll see how the season goes.
Right, so unfortunately, didn't realize as I started to get into the video that my mic had an issue, so just recording this bit again, but the rest of the video should be fine. So, starting out 20th place, I have Burnley, and in 19th place, I've got Leeds United. I don't think it will be very close between those two teams and the other 18. I think they're the clear worst two teams in the league, to be honest. And it's a real shame, especially for a club like Leeds. I think they are such a great club, so good for English football, but I just don't see their squads being strong enough to compete with even the teams that I have finishing 18, 17, 16, let alone all the other teams in the league. That brings us on to 18th, and this one is one I believe in a lot. If I had to bet on it, I'm not sure if I would, but I believe that Sunderland will stay up. I believe Wolves will be relegated this season. I think the loss of Matheus Cunha is going to hit them really hard. I know they've made signings, John Arias, Gomez, I believe, from Spain, but I don't think it's enough at all. I see a lack of quality and a lack of depth. And whilst I like the manager, I'm not sure it's enough. I do have Sunderland staying up. I think the quality they've signed this transfer window, Granit Xhaka, Simon Adingra, Reinildo at left back, Enzo Lefebvre on a permanent, they've really invested. And this happens every year. I do put a promoted team to stay up every year, even though the last 3 years they've not stayed up. But I think this year is the year that trend ends.
In 16th, I've got Brentford, and in 15th, I've got West Ham. Brentford and West Ham, a lot of people, I think, were overestimating how good Brentford would still be with so much change. Lost your captain, lost your best player, and you lost your manager. You were already hovering, which, by the way, is fine for Brentford. As long as you're a Premier League team, absolutely amazing work. But I do think they are due for massive regression this season. I think survival will be the number one goal, and then building for the years to come after that. If they stay up, that's fine for Brentford. And West Ham, they've made some really interesting signings. Malik Diouf, left back, really like him. They've also brought through Dan Potts. I know it's Dan Potts, it might be his brother, but one of the Potts brothers is coming through for West Ham, and he looks like a real player. So I think they'll have a comfortable year. I still think they lack massively in terms of creativity. It's a lot of Bowen and Paqueta and hope, especially now they've lost Kudus. So not going too high on West Ham. In 14th now, we have Fulham, followed by Everton in 13th place. And in 12th place, I've actually gone with Nottingham Forest. Now, Fulham and Everton, I think, are going to have solid seasons. They have got bit of a thinner squad than I think is needed to really push for a top 10 position in the league. That's why I've got them just below. But they've got excellent managers who know their systems, know their players' strengths and weaknesses, and will cater to that style every week. It's going to be hard to beat those teams, and I think they're going to be comfortable. Won't be in any risk of relegation, but also I don't see them pushing that top 9, 8th spot. Nottingham Forest, I think, is going to surprise a lot of people. I have them this low. I thought a lot of their success last year was very, I don't want to say lucky, because I don't really believe in luck for a whole season in the Premier League, but fortunate. We'll say it was fortunate. Anthony Elanga had an absolutely amazing season, but I think when you dig deeper into the numbers, you see that he overshot his expected contributions by a lot. I think their defence is still arguably top 4 in the league. You could even say top 3. Matt Sells, Ola Aina, Milenkovic, Murillo, and Nico Williams is such a great backline, and I think that will really serve them well. But I do think Chris Wood kind of shot above his skis last season. I don't see him putting up, 20 goals in the league, which is kind of what I think it would take. But, I could be wrong. Now on to 11th place, we've got Crystal Palace. In 10th place, we've got Bournemouth. And in 9th place, we've got Brighton. So, again, very, very unsure as to exactly where these three teams will place. I would be a bit shocked if any of them fell below where I've got them. I can't see these guys falling into that 12th, 13th, 14th spot. I think Palace, being in the Conference League, they'll be able to rotate heavily, but their squad is not that deep at all. Once you get past the bench, it's not like you have a 25-man squad of first-team players. So I think on a week-to-week basis, Palace won't be as strong as they are on individual match days. We saw in the Community Shield, they are still a tough, tough side to beat. But I don't think week to week they'll be able to keep that level of consistency. Bournemouth and Brighton come in at 10th and 9th. I think that Bournemouth, a lot of people are sleeping on just how good Andoni Iraola is. A lot of people think, oh, they've lost their entire back line. They've lost players throughout the team, players left on contract exits. But I think they're thinking about, what they've lost as opposed to what they've kept. They've still got Andoni Iraola, who is an absolutely amazing tactician. They've re-signed on a new contract Antoine Semenyo. They've still got Evan Nielsen, Justin Cliver. I think they've got some real, real talent in those forward areas. So I think Bournemouth will concede a lot more goals than they did last season, but I think they will still be fine for a top half finish. And then in 9th, I've got Brighton. I think that Fabian Herzler is really finding his footing with this Brighton team. I do think that Karu Matoma, Danny Welbeck, players like that, Jorginho Rutter, I think they're just going to do what they always do, which is be consistent performers in the Premier League and making themselves a worthwhile contender for that final European spot. But I do think they'll fall just short. Okay, getting into some big boys now. In 8th, I've got Spurs. In 7th, I've got Newcastle. And in 6th, I've got Manchester United. I also had Man United and Tottenham high last season. That really killed me in my predictions. However, I'm looking around the league and I'm looking at what Tottenham are doing. I am shooting this the day after the Super Cup final. Yes, they did Spurs it up at the end, but we have to give credit where credit's due. Thomas Frank managed a very, very incredible game against Luis Enrique for 85 minutes. 2-0 up against PSG. Wow, I did not see that coming at all. I actually bet on them to lose the game, so there you go. But I do think, sadly, Thomas Frank will make Tottenham a much improved outfit. I do have them lower than Man United, which I can see being unpopular. But I think the difference of European football, Champions League football for Tottenham in an extended Champions League group format is going to be a lot more difficult to navigate compared to Man United, who will be going all out in the league every single week. And in between those two teams, I do have Newcastle, similarly like Tottenham, Champions League football, don't have the biggest squad. This is off the proviso that Isak stays. If Isak leaves and they don't get a replacement in, it could be pretty worrisome at times. Okay, we're going to do the top 5 now, and we're going to do 5th and 4th first of all. So I will have Aston Villa in 5th place, and just missing out on the top 3, Chelsea. Now, I think with Aston Villa, European football won't be as tough a demand. I think Unai Emery knows how to win that competition, obviously, but also knows how to use his squad. And I think their defence is solid. Ezri Konsa, Pau Torres, Matty Cash. I think they'll be a really, really tough team to beat. And Chelsea, who, in all honesty, I did have third at one point during the summer. Now, a lot of that was probably Club World Cup final bias, because I didn't watch much of the Club World Cup where they were struggling to win games and going to penalties, but I did watch the full final. And let's give credit, Chelsea were brilliant. But ultimately, I think the first time for this squad of juggling a major European competition as well as vying for a top finish in the Premier League, it's a lot of pressure. Will they live up to it? I think they'll just fall short. And finally, we have the top 3. So we obviously have Liverpool, Arsenal, and Manchester City left from last season's top 3. Who will I have in this season's top 3? Well, in 3rd place, I've actually got Liverpool. My reasoning for this is I think Arsenal and Manchester City have a lot more settled squads and know exactly what they want to do every single time. This isn't a knock on Arne Slot, who, by the way, winning the Premier League in your first season in England, one of the biggest achievements ever from a Premier League manager. Huge congratulations. But I think it's clear that he's already changing the system and the way he wants them to play, which is fine. You earn the right to do that when you win the Premier League title. But I do wonder if he would have been better served holding on to a bit more of the squad, less turnover. They've turned over a lot of positions. You've brought in Verts, Kirkej, Ekatike, Frimpong. Those are four major, major signings that are going to play and start a lot of games. And I do wonder how this tactical adaptation will hinder them in the league in games that potentially they should be winning and they're drawing. So that brings us to the final two teams. Manchester City, multi-time champions of England, one of the most dominant teams of the last 10 years, against my Gunners, Arsenal, who haven't won the Premier League since 2004. Thought long and hard about this. I'm only joking. Didn't take long to think about it at all. I've got Arsenal winning the league. Now, oh no. I know. Complete bias, right? You're probably right. If I'm being honest, if Arsenal were ever in a race, even if they look like the third favourite team objectively, if they have a chance, I'm never betting against them. However, I do think for a lot of reasons Arsenal have a very, very good chance to win the league this year. Number one, I think they have the most settled squad out of Liverpool, City, Arsenal. I think they have had the least turnover while still making those crucial additions, which we'll get onto. But I think having that cohesion, players that know exactly what each other are thinking, is so crucial in those tough games where you just need to have something special to unlock an opposition back line. I do think Manchester City, who have got a new left back, new central midfielders, wide players, I think it's just a lot more difficult compared to Arsenal, who have just put Martin Zubimendi in Thomas Partey's place and Gyökeres in Havertz's place. And I think that just improves the spine of the team so much. I went to watch Arsenal versus Athletic Bilbao. Zubimendi, that was one of the best performances I've seen an Arsenal midfielder make. Yes, it's just pre-season, but wow. If someone wants to go with Liverpool or Manchester City, I'm not going to call them silly. Of course, Man City and Liverpool have that winning pedigree, and I would not be shocked if they win the Premier League. But I do think this is Arsenal's year, whether there's some bias in there or not. But that was my 1 to 20 Premier League predictions. I think we will come back to these at the end of the season and be pretty impressed by how much I got right, but also be able to laugh at some of the stuff I got really wrong, no doubt. I am now going to do some little predictions for awards / events I think will happen throughout the season, starting with top scorer. I had this prediction last year, just going with the same person again. I think Erling Haaland will be top scorer. I was obviously wrong last year. He finished third behind Mohamed Salah and Alexander Isak. But I think Erling Haaland in this Man City team is always going to get you at least 25. Last season, he got 22 in an injury hit season. If he stays more healthy this season, I can see him getting 28 goals, and that might just be enough to win the Golden Boot. In terms of assists, last year I had Bukayo Saka, and he really was good for assists last year until he got injured. He was on pace to actually be the top assister in the league. Didn't go with him this year. I've actually went with Bruno Fernandes. And this is kind of counterintuitive to something I've got coming up later. But I do think Bruno Fernandes will be critical to every Manchester United attack. You've got so many new forwards that are going to need to bed in and learn each other's movements. I think Bruno will be the one consistent player in that United front line. Clean sheets, I've predicted it 2 years in a row, and it's happened 2 years in a row. We're going to go with David Raya. I do think Arsenal have the best defence in the Premier League. Not by far, but by a considerable margin. Gabriel, Saliba, Raya, that triangle is so solid. And now you've got Calafiori, Lewis Skelly, Ben White, Jurrien Timber as your backup and starting fullback options. I think Arsenal will keep the most clean sheets in the league this year. Signing of the season, I spoke about him when I was talking about Arsenal. Not Victor Gyökeres though. Gonna go with Martin Zubimendi. I think what he offers this team is such a game changer. I think there will be so many games where we look at the team that Arsenal are playing and they've sat back behind the ball, and it's been one moment from Martin Zubimendi in the build-up that's released Arsenal's attackers and allowed us to break through that back line. A bit like Rodri, different types of players, but in terms of that importance to the midfield, I think Zubimendi's the signing of the season. Player of the season, I'm going Erling Haaland again. I think if he has another top scorer season, as well as a top 3 finish in the Prem to go with some assists, I can see him getting the award. Young player of the season. This is a row shout, but hear me out. El Hadji Diouf, the new left back for West Ham United. I think he is going to be spectacular. I saw him in the Premier League Summer Series as I worked on it for Sky, and his crossing ability, say it quietly, is Trent-esque. The way he whips that ball in with pace, power, and curve, very impressive. He's going to be in an advanced wing-back role for West Ham, bombing down that wing. I can really, really see him doing well in West Ham's system, and I think that he will be the young player of the season. Flop of the season. I've got Benjamin Šeško. I did put Rasmus Højlund last year, and I was correct. But for a different reason, I'm putting Šeško. I don't think he'll be as bad as Højlund was. By far, I think he's a better player. However, big expectations. He's come in for around, 90 million euros? It's a lot of money. And he's not the finished article, in my opinion, and in many other opinions too. Let's not forget, this past season, Benjamin Šeško only got 13 goals in the Bundesliga. The year before that, 11. The year before that, 4. I just don't see him coming into the Premier League with a record like that and absolutely tearing it up in season 1. Following on from that, biggest underachievers, I'm going to go with Nottingham Forest. I have them outside the top 10. I think that they'll be a very surprising package for the wrong reasons this season. I don't think they'll be as fluid in attack and on the transition. Biggest overachievers, I'm going to go with Bournemouth, simply because the way people are talking about them, they've lost their back line, they've lost players, and they don't have a deep enough squad. I think a lot of people might think that Bournemouth are going to finish 14th, 13th. I don't think so at all. I think Bournemouth will be a good enough team this season. And finally, first manager sacked. I've went with Leeds manager Daniel Farke. I think Leeds will be a bit more reactionary than Burnley, even though I anticipate Leeds being a bit better than Burnley. I think Burnley will stick with Parker for a little bit longer, whereas Leeds will feel like they need to stay in the league, so they get rid of Farke a bit sooner. But that is all. Thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe if you're new here. I appreciate the support on the channel recently. Been absolutely blowing up on TikTok, and that's all down to the support I get from everyone who tunes in on the YouTube, tunes in, likes the content on the Instagram. It's so appreciated. Most importantly, let me know your predictions in the comments. Who do you think is going to win the title? Who do you think is going to get relegated? Please let me know. I actually really want to know. Till next time, guys, stay safe.